Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Inside Scoop this week. Hey, Oscar.
Hi there.
This week we're talking about some philosophy that is going to be almost the thing that we said last week. What is it, like Socrates versus Zen or Socrates versus Taoism, sort of?
Yeah, if you want to
Sort of. But
say
the
that.
thing is, we're pretty much just looking into what
Yeah.
Socrates
I
was
mean,
and
I don't know about you, but I say I'm I'm an amateur in this. I'm a hobbyist.
oh, dude,
And
I wouldn't even call myself that. I'm literally just a dude who's interested. But then usually the person who's interested is not even a hobbyist because, there's loads of things that people say, oh, I'm interested. Oh, that's cool. Oh, this and that. But
right. Well, I mean, you're said you're like what 70% for the book or something,
yeah, sort of almost finishing it up. But.
and it's how quick is it?
Oh, I don't know, page wise. It's so the book, first of all, because I don't think I even told you what the book was.
Okay.
Uh, so the book is by Alan Watts. It's called The Way of Zen. The book was published in 1957. It's a nonfiction book, and yeah, I don't know about the thickness specifically.
Mhm.
There's loads of variants. Like A4 PDFs. There's smaller books. But it says 236 pages, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've started reading it some time ago, but then I really got through the biggest chunk of it yesterday or the day before. But the thing is, it's so hard to sum it up. I'm not an expert in literature and all that. I can't really comprehend everything that's written there.
Hmm.
It may as well just have been an experience that happened and exchanged, a Zen-like exchange between me and the book.
Okay.
The book just gave me the words and I accepted them, but then did anything change? Did I understand anything? Maybe no. Maybe yes. I don't
Mm.
know. It's like but anyway, I think your book was probably more valuable in terms of or like it had more facts possibly.
Uh, well, I mean, I can't even say I'm a fifth way of a way through it.
Yeah, but like, okay, so
Of
so what was yours? Because I've heard that it's something about Socrates, but then at the same time, I didn't know what book you were reading.
Right. So it's a compilation of Plato's dialogues. Plato is a student of Socrates.
Oh, okay.
So Socrates didn't actually write anything himself. And one of the reasons, or what I've read, the reason for that was that if he said that philosophers, or he believed that philosophers shouldn't write things down, they should converse with each other
Hmm.
and pass knowledge that way. Because if you write something down and it gets into the wrong hands, somebody can make arguments against it without your presence, and there's nobody to oppose those arguments.
Wow, that's damn, dude. People should learn from this stuff these days.
So,
Imagine Twitter.
yeah,
People post something on Twitter without even intending it to sound, you know, things get taken out of context so often.
yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's cool.
but that was part of my just online research because I knew that from reading this from early on that I probably wouldn't straight away get a lot of the philosophy,
Yeah.
um, because it is. Well, you're entering really the mind of Plato, who was influenced by Socrates, because these are fictitious conversations. So it's Plato's interpretation, in a way, of Socrates. Um, but a lot of it is dialogues with well, the dialogues, the five dialogues. It's conversations with people, dialogues, I suppose, with people of Athens. Um, that for the most part are like talking to idiots. I mean,
Or do you think he was also stereotyping?
sorry.
Do you think he was stereotyping too?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, perhaps. But I think uh, the kind of people that are represented in this book exists today as well. I mean, religion exists today as well, and not this isn't anything about any kind of judgment of religion. You know, I'm not giving my opinion on religion here,
Yeah, we're reading
but
the book and reading the
but
facts, I guess.
just you know, Plato here, imagining Socrates or portraying Socrates conversations with Athenians, but are fictitious. He shows very simple fallacies in their thinking. So, which a lot of it in this first one has to do with religion and their beliefs in gods and what gods believe is good and bad. This first one is about somebody or the person that Socrates is talking to prosecuting his own father for a murder. And he's trying to explain that it is that it is pious, or what that word kind of means, like religious, like good in the religion's sense. I still can't really know I still don't really know exactly what the word is supposed to mean, but it's like right. Well, it's good in the eyes of God's as described here, and then yeah, I mean Socrates or Plato, whatever. Socrates goes on to show the fallacy in the argument, saying that the gods dispute between themselves. So how can you know if one god says this thing is good and another god that you also believe in says this is bad? How can you know this is good or bad? And this just goes on for so long. So there's not a lot of philosophy that I'm going to get out of like most of this. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but I hope that at some point I will come across something here that I wouldn't have heard said before of the philosophies of Socrates or Plato.
So that's kind
Something,
of questioning stuff, pretty much, isn't it?
yeah,
Like,
questioning
just
stuff.
keep questioning.
But it's not as fun as when you're when you're in a position of where you're watching it happen between two people, or you're reading of a conversation of it happening between two people. Because there isn't that kind of trying to explain something to you. I already know who is right in this, basically, and I'm just kind of watching you explain to somebody not as wise as you why he is wrong. But I don't know. I've only started reading the book.
Yeah.
But the stuff I found from my internet research, as I've just said, was far more interesting. Yeah.
About Socrates, the man himself.
The thing about not writing things down.
Oh, okay. Well, it's
But
like you remember the quote that I sent you from Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, when it read, "Those who know do not speak; those who speak do not know," which is kind of an interesting one. So it's like almost to say that you're supposed to just be quiet,
yeah.
not share stuff about you know.
Well, I had a quote on my Facebook, if you go into my cover pictures, from Plato before I read anything of Plato. I don't know where I saw it, but I decided to use it as a quote. It was
Well, let's
if I
find
don't
it.
want to, I don't want to get it wrong.
So I shall find it.
Oh, you shall find it then. I'll let you find it.
It's most likely not about work. It's most likely not about... Okay. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. Wow.
So that's kind of like what you're saying right now.
Uh-huh, yeah. Mine is more straight to the point. It's just like, don't speak. Just never speak.
Yeah.
It's almost like let the person figure out by themselves, or I don't know, man. It's just different. Yeah, I mean, interpretations have to also be different, you know. Maybe some things just get lost in translation or whatever, but yeah. Um, but I guess this. So I'll introduce that Zen concept a bit. I guess so. It's not about speaking, right? Because with Zen, the master almost always knows the answer before the student even questions. It's like the master is supposed to answer. Well, it's almost like, you know, those weird exchanges where a student comes to the master and asks something, and then I don't know if I'm calling it the right way. You know, the master, the monk, the I don't know. So it just asks like, what is the, you know, what is the meaning of life, or what is the purpose, and then the master doesn't even think about it. It just says a blossom of a cherry tree or something,
Mm.
which is sort of so out of the context, but at the same time, it really, you can't really answer such a question. You have to find it out for yourself. And so,
Mhm.
what I think, well, I just had this thought right now, literally, this came to me right now, but that this quote, which says, those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know, but then at the same time, how would you transfer the knowledge? You transfer it by showing stuff.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I actually had
It,
a yeah. Go on.
yeah, and it's so kind of interesting. Well, see, they call it direct pointing. Shichi is the open demonstration of Zen by non-symbolic actions or words. So, and there's been these exchanges between people. Even, for example, a monastery, I think, was looking for, I don't know, a secretary. Let's just put it in very simple, you know, terms or whatever. So they were looking for a person who could be in charge, whatever, right? To, to just say which one is the actual master or which one is, because if you want to put a person in charge, you obviously have to check the person to see if he's suitable. And so a master puts a picture, you know, a photograph, not a photograph, I don't know, a picture or whatever, maybe like a painting, a wood sculpts, whatever, and asks people, what is this? So then someone says, well, it's a picture. Well, no, it is a picture, but the person fails instantly. The other one says, well, you couldn't really call it a block of wood. That guy also fails the test. So the person who actually passes it is a monastery cook who, walking past, kicks it and kicks the picture and puts it on it, like flips it upside down, whatever, by kicking it. So these very like weird interactions is what is kind of beautiful and interesting to me in Zen. There was this, I cannot really recall the last name of the master who teaching classes, and he takes a matchbox, holds it in front of the students, and asks, what is this? Well, students naturally are going to say this is a matchbox, because it, well, doesn't it make sense? You hold up a matchbox and ask, what is that? So students say this is a matchbox. But he says no, because matchbox is a noise, is a word. Matchbox isn't this. What is this? And so then when, you know, when people say matchbox, he just throws that matchbox at the students and say that's what it is. It's like you can't really talk about the unspeakable. We have developed language obviously to describe a matchbox, and now we know that a matchbox is a matchbox. But if you're asking what is this, you can't really describe it. A thing is a thing. A thing is a thing.
Yep.
And
There's so many parallels.
that's where I'll end it, man.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
A thing
one.
is a thing. Yeah, if you think about it, if you go to find the definition of a word, of any word, and you get a definition in the form of one sentence, and then if you go to every word in that sentence, and you keep going, do that to every word of the definition of the definitions of those words, then you eventually end up at the word you started with.
Yeah.
So it all goes in circles. And that's why I don't really go with definitions when I try to improve my English or any language, but mainly English because I don't work on any of my other languages, of which there are two, English and Polish. But I generally just look at the etymology of a word, which is the origin of the word.
Yeah.
And that basically goes down and breaks it down into occasionally or generally or often it's a combination of two words that come together, or a word and a suffix, or a word and a prefix, and those in themselves are very simple, but when they come together they just kind of have this form of this new word in, say, modern English or contemporary English. And then what adds more meaning to that word is the country of origin, and also the people that used it, and stuff like that, which is a lot to think about when you could just have a definition of a word, but definitions go in circles.
Yeah.
Which is maybe kind of a tangent, but yeah.
Wow, dude, I just got a different meaning of a quote. Wow, there's a quote that reads, "A thing is a thing, not what is said of that thing." And I was like, where did I hear this quote? Birdman. Movie Birdman. This thing was written on the mirror.
You got cut out there.
Oh my god, dude.
It was written
That
on
thing,
what?
a mirror.
Oh.
So it was just a normal casual scene, what seems like, right? It's don't know if you watched the movie Birdman. It's a very, how do I say, it's literally one of my favorite movies.
I've heard of it, I think, but
It's oh man, dude, it's a very, very like, it is about a person, who is known for his Birdman movies. So in the movie, the person is getting chased almost, like not chased, but by an image of himself as that Birdman, because usually these superhero movies, the actor dresses up a costume and becomes a superhero and all that. So funnily enough, the actor in the movie Birdman, which was being chased by the persona of that Birdman, has actually in real life acted in Batman movies, and he was the Batman. So this, I think it has some darker meanings under there, right? But yeah, but that movie was kind of an interesting one, and then I was like, holy shit. So this is where it was written in. And I never really thought of that quote too much. I was like, well, it makes sense, it's not the rumors. You have to check in with like what the thing is actually about, right? Yeah. It's like in a popular culture, you could probably use this quote in terms of, oh, I'm not that. You need to, actually talk to me. You don't just like read my Twitter post and stuff. But now I understand that from a Zen perspective. A thing is a thing, not what is said of the thing, from the lecture of that matchbox.
Yeah.
Because a matchbox is a matchbox, but
okay,
the thing that is a matchbox is a thing that is a matchbox. You can't say that
Yeah.
the thing that we call a matchbox is matchbox because
Yeah.
they're
I mean,
just different
it's a
things.
tautology.
Yeah.
But
One thing is a word. One thing is a sound that we
that's not a
make.
tautology, but okay.
But tautology, what?
It's a meaningless statement where you say, when you have, say, two similar, and then for an example, you have two similar words that mean the same thing, and you say one thing is that other thing, but they mean the same thing, so you didn't say anything.
Oh,
But, and yeah, let's think about that. Let's think about the matchbox and the wooden board or the painting.
mm-hmm.
It is, of many things, how you interact with the thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a physical thing, he kicks it over. It's a thing he kicks over.
It is.
The same way words, the meaning of words comes from how we use them, not from their definitions in the dictionary.
True. We give meanings to things, though. Yeah, we get taught stuff. I've heard some disturbing stuff of people being kidnapped, put into these sects, cults, whatever the things you want to call them, and they get brainwashed to use a different dictionary. People get simple words pushed out of their minds. And this is some conspiracy stuff. I don't know if these things are true, but this is very disturbing, man. People get taught absolutely different meanings. For example, if someone says a door, what the person actually means is a chair, because in that cult thing, the person was brainwashed into thinking that a chair is a door and a door
That
is
sounds stupid.
a sink or whatever.
That
Some
sounds
sort of
stupid.
like, dude, that's some weird stuff I've heard about.
Are you making this shit up? Is that creepypasta or what is?
No, I'm not making it up, dude.
That's stupid. Why
This is
would
deep
you?
state, bro. This is why?
Of all things cults could do,
Why? To be able to
a
communicate.
door is a chair.
Yes, because when you talk to people, well, not to people, you
Make
talk
up a new
amongst
language.
themselves. Yes, when you talk amongst yourselves, you mean different things. So this only shows to me
makes-
how you could
Like, makes
change
little
a
bit more
person's
sense.
perspective on what a word means. This, on the other hand, this also means that children who don't know what words are, they learn them. I was watching this little thing about
Hey,
a
hold on.
gorilla, Coco, was taught sign language, knows about 200 signs. It means you could teach a gorilla to think and communicate in a specific language. Means that, well, dogs too, for example, when you teach them to do certain things, right? They associate a sound, a word, something with an action, with an unspeakable thing. Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is exactly all it is. I mean, where how a language originally was, it was more like how all other animals communicate, so those, grunts and stuff, if you like.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
then-
how they communicate. Holy hell, man.
And over time, we somehow got more sophisticated in the way we speak. Like things have gotten more. We've had more things to communicate. We've had to differentiate between. We had to make more words, more sounds, and then eventually we had to make words, I guess. Because you could make so many sounds, and if you chain these sounds together, you start to make words. I don't know. It's just this, silly little theory, but that's. I mean, as I've said, and you said, kids learn the language. Do you understand the way in which we learn language as children? How do we learn language as children?
How do we learn it? Got
How do
no
we learn our
idea.
first language? Well, give it a shot. How do you think we learn the first language? Because you don't sit down with a dictionary.
No, it's the
You have
same way
no.
as I was discussing with some people about how we learn a second language or how we learn a third language. How do you translate your first language to the second? Do you translate your first to third? Apparently some people did. I was like, wait, dude, this is the wrong way of learning,
You
because
did. You
and
didn't do that.
and their language
That
was
is
kind
amazing,
of
actually.
and
Because I mean, go on, but I've got to go back to that.
yeah, so it was kind of interesting to talk to that person, say, oh, are you actually translating every. So apparently the person comes up with the thing he wants to say, comes up with the sentence in the first language of his, translates to the second language and tries to say it, and the language of that person was kind of meh. I was like, yo, dude, you probably need to do it the other way. So I tried explaining to that person a concept of images, and it's like I couldn't even explain what the things in our mind are, but
Mm-hmm.
things just form in a mind. Like if you want to
Yeah.
say a rock, your mind doesn't go in there and look up what a rock means.
Mm-hmm.
It just knows the flow, the action, the concept, the imagery of how a rock looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you associate that with your first language when you're learning
Mm-hmm.
it. Obviously, your parents show you a freaking model car or something, or I don't know, like let's say like a chair. They show you a chair and they say chair, and then you associate an action, an image, the the unspeakable thing that works in your mind to a sound that is chair. Then later on you learn how to write it. Then later on you get these connections. All of that starts in your primal brain thing, which shows these little images, and then those images connect to words and sounds and all that. Like
Yeah.
for example, I think of rice. I know how to say rice in English because it's rice, it's this, but I don't think, for example, in Lithuanian, I don't think about it. I don't think about wanting to say rice and then, sort of translating that word.
Mm-hmm.
In Chinese, rice is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I go into and look up what I want to say in English, then translate it to Chinese somehow. No, I just have made an association that this hieroglyph, this symbol, this sound, which sounds like fun, means rice. And I now know how to say that word in quite a few languages, but in the very beginning, there was a feeling of what rice is.
Yes.
For different people, it may work a bit differently. Some of they associated with taste, some of them associated with sound,
Right.
feeling, touch. But yeah, that would be my very long but weird answer to what I would think our first language learning would be. Is like some sort
Yeah.
of imagery connecting with a thing that is externally presented to you, like a word, a sound, a written text. Yeah.
Yes. That is absolutely right. And there is a lot of undoing in learning a language a different way. When you learn a language, as I was taught English when I first was taught it, as you are in school,
Mm-hmm.
as you are, as I was taught when I had a tutor, for some of it anyway, hopefully not most of it, is you have a word in your original language or the language you know, and then it means that in the other language, and that is fine for words like just objects like a rock or a couch
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something, right? It's fine for those things because you say, okay, I know when you say couch in my original language, I know what it is. I can imagine it with my brain, and then you say it
Yeah.
in the new language, and like I associate it with the word, but also with the actual thing. It's not a problem. But there are cases where you have multiple translations because one word in one language translates to multiple meanings in
Oh
a different
yeah, for
language.
sure,
And
man.
that's where, if you have been taught a language by constantly translating, you're going to have a very hard time undoing that when you realize you've been doing it wrong,
Mm. Yep.
because you've already created these pathways in your brain, these connections,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're so. And then I kind of realized at some point after learning English for a good while that why do we learn language this way? This isn't how we've learned our first language, and
Mm-hmm.
this is why I struggle so much with English when I start to overanalyze it, because there's multiple translations, and so there was a point where I was like, okay, I'm not using translations anymore when I don't understand the word. I'm going to look up the definition. If that doesn't help me, I'm going to look up the etymology, and
Oh,
if
here we go. Here we go. That's what I was gonna say.
and and then I was like, okay, if I'm ever going to learn another language, I'm not going to start translating words, whatever they are, from English to that other language. I'm
Mm.
going to start maybe reading kids' books and stuff with a lot of pictures. That would straight away, it would be like I was learning it as my first language. And
Yeah.
the associations would be with images, with feelings, with all of that, and there wouldn't be any sort of
Dude.
multiple translations or
I can
anything like
already
that.
imagine this being a very big, online course marketing material where you stand up and be like, I found this revolutionary way of learning a language. Why do you translate words to your original language? Learn it with me, and then Oscar.com language learning, something like that. You just teach people in, the primal way, and everyone respects you because they're like, oh my God, this guy discovered that we actually learn our first language this way. Because some people don't think about it, right? If you ask
No,
someone, how did you learn your first language? It's like, I don't know, I just don't think about it. But yeah,
that's true.
so when you mentioned the definition, yeah, I told that person, well, which we talked about previously, about that like you, how do you, so first of all, I ask him, it's not like Zen way, but it's almost like, ask them, how do you do it now? It's like, oh, I go to translate and stuff, and then almost present them with an idea so that the person would come to the conclusion themselves. They're like, oh wait, that makes sense. Why am I doing it this way? So then I'm sure that the person started looking up definitions instead of because the thing is, definition is at least supposed to be written in a way simpler manner. At least I would assume that even the thing that you go and do on Google, Google defines something, right?
Hmm.
And I would imagine that there should be at least some sort of a ceiling which claims that this is, a 5-year-old's language, or this is a 7-year-old's language, so the definition of a word would be explained in such simple terms that you're more likely to know them already because they're so simple. I would assume that definition is such a thing where and then start building, start building up, look up synonyms, look up that stuff, and just,
Yeah,
yeah, I never actually went into go, like, what is it? Did you say at not
etymology.
etymology, whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing. But when you have definitions, or sorry, when you have synonyms, that's good for at least understanding what the purpose of the word is in a sentence. To a certain extent, it will help you out with the context and all of that. But then you actually have to also differentiate that word from its synonyms. So, and that is involved doing more reading, and words have connotations, so they could seem synonymous, but then they have different connotations. But connotations just kind of like things they're associated, kind of like feelings, I suppose. Even they're associated with good or bad connotations. So if you say you have a word, and you say that it has bad connotations, if you were to say it about somebody, it would mean a bad thing about that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, connotations are a very hard thing to explain unless you actually experience them. We had the whole fucking thing about connotations in English when I learned it here in class, in English class. That it was just very, very confusing for me at the time. But it's just something you learn with experience. And with reading books, even when you're reading a book and you get the word and you get its definition, it might help you understand it for the first time, to get on with the text. But as you then come across that word again in different contexts, you're actually gonna realize in what kind of context it's used, and that's what the word is. It's the context people use the word in, really. Because you can have two words that are synonymous, but then, if you were to say it in one context, everybody would be just confused. Why would you say this word, use this word instead of that word?
Yeah.
And you can only learn that way, and even those like small little things that you can only learn from experience, because they aren't strictly defined. Dictionary is not going to help you. Etymology it's going to be help, but it's not going to be the end of it either, probably. Yeah, but
That's
etymology
why
is like a good shortcut, because it really gives you the roots of the word, and that can help a lot. Yeah.
What the hell? Definition. I like how when you Google something and you say definition of black or definition of red, of some color or any like other word, which is definition of beautiful. And I Googled etymology definition because I wanted to know what this word means. What it came up with is actually a definition of a definition. And it shows it actually shows the etymology of definition. I guess it says Latin definire, definitio, and then define, and then definition. Wow. I was gonna define. Okay, let's do it another way. Define etymology. Okay, so it's a study of origin and stuff.
Give me.
Okay, study of origin and all that makes sense.
Which can kind of give you an idea of what's that word really, a good context for that word.
The origin, historical development of a linguistic form. Okay, yeah. Because usually, it does make sense. Most of the things, well, not things, most of the words, if not all of them, did come from somewhere.
Yeah.
You can't just say, the word just appeared. Sort of does, but at the same time, if you notice that how many languages actually have similar words for similar things, they did come from some almost like same origin.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to give an example, actually, of a word I learned today, the definition of I learned today, and it is extol. So I want to compare the etymology and the definition. And I'll start with the definition. And I want to use Google, not DuckDuckGo, because that's where I last Google got the definition, and it actually would prove a certain point. Because DuckDuckGo is too good.
Whoa.
Definition. Okay, so the definition of extol is to praise enthusiastically, right? Let's look at the etymology of extol.
Extol.
Yeah.
Oh, is it EKS or something?
EXTOL. If you think about it, right?
Wow, such a weird word.
Praise enthusiastically, right? Extol. You could use the words praise enthusiastically, and there's probably a bunch of other synonymous words to extol. And it just be kind of like, okay, where do I use this, right? Where do I use this word? If I could say praise enthusiastically instead of it, where would I use this word? And what is the correct context? So let's look at the origin of it.
Raise out, upward.
Yeah, right. And that gives you some more context, right?
Yeah.
Raise up. if you think about, if you imagine you have somebody and you extol them, you praise them enthusiastically, you're raising them up, right?
Well, you just said a word that I wanted to say. You said praise, which is also raise.
Right.
It's like it's the
So all of
feeling
these
of
things,
lifting a person's mood up or lifting it. You feel that if you're lifting a person, it means that you're raising him, and if you're raising, you're sort of praising. Wow, dude, this is like weird, but that's interesting. Yeah.
right? And it's all these small differences that if you're going to have a good command of a language, and a good command of a language can only be, not the can only be, but can be very useful for your influence. It's going to depend on these little differences of where should you use a particular word, because you can know many words, but if you use them in the wrong context, people are going to scratch their heads.
Mm.
And you can only really do that, and probably the best way of doing that is just by reading a lot, because you're going to see where it's used. And that's, if you think about machine learning, we are the machines in this case. We're just
Yeah.
fed a lot of words, fed a lot of sentences, paragraphs, and then we kind of like, oh, this goes here, this goes
Yeah.
here.
So now I sort of understand when people really say, if you want to learn a language, you have to immerse yourself, sort of.
Yeah.
Almost go out in the street, talk to the shopkeeper. Almost take a water bottle and be like, and then, try to understand what it is.
Yeah. It's a slow process, but it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be relying on translations, and you're not going to be going between languages. Translations are just not the way.
No,
to
that's
learn.
for sure.
Never.
Wow. That was quite
I say
a
never,
conversation,
right?
man.
But translations would probably be useful if you have like a book for tourists, with certain phrases.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to
But-
quickly learn something for, a short to be used, or if you go to, well, we obviously need interpreters and, live translators who work in a multicultural, multinational. For example, the European Parliament is something where I've heard it for the first time. I think when you put the little headphones on, you can switch in to a channel where there's interpreter booths, and they get the live feed from what the person is saying. Well, for example, in French maybe, and then they translate it to a channel on that earphone system. So then you can select which booth, because every booth stands for a different language and there's a different interpreter. So we do need translations, but obviously we're not talking about that. We're not talking about understanding other people. We're now talking about learning a language. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it bothers people. I think, which I don't know why I haven't made a point of it. I think my mom does a lot of her learning through translation. I think, which I mean, I don't know if at a certain age it is just too much to start from scratch. I think it's just still way easier. I mean, like how much she struggles with. I mean, she can speak English, but she's often like very concerned about if she understands something the right way, right?
Yeah.
And then goes to translations and stuff. Does it mean this or does it mean that? And I can see how it can cause like anxiety almost. When you see which of the translations is it then? Why does this translate this way but not that way, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it should translate this way, but in this context it translates that way, and you wouldn't really have that problem so much if
Yeah,
you
but the
learned
thing is,
language from scratch.
you need to put in effort, and you need to.
I think at the start, yeah.
And you also
it takes
need
a
to
lot
know-
of effort at the start.
Yeah, but the effort also translates into a, a wish of yours to actually learn it, because if you don't really need the language, you just need to,
No,
understand
yeah,
some technical concepts, or, read an instruction booklet or something. You're not really going to go and learn, the street slang just to understand a technical book.
no,
Like
no.
you only
No, but
need
mom,
a language up to a certain level to which you need. Like, but maybe your mom
yeah.
doesn't really want to, like, I don't know,
Well, no, but okay. So
have
my mom, I think,
philosophical debates with people in
yeah, I don't think
English.
it's, I don't, no, I don't think it's that. But I think she's more sure of herself now with her language, but she's always very kind of unsure of herself with English. Um, and I saw that it caused her a lot of distress to learn English.
Mm, okay.
So I feel like that can be avoided if you go about learning a language the way we talked about. And I mean, she's been learning the language. She wants to learn a language. That's the thing. She wants to learn it well. So I feel like, and she wants to be, because I mean, if you're going to live in another country for the rest of your life, you want to be able to have good conversations with people.
Oh, because she lives here. Okay, I
Yes,
see.
she lives
I
here.
see.
Yes, and that actually troubles me a lot more now that I think about it. That she's for 10 years been kind of, a lot of her learning was based on translations.
Well, you may have a chat with her. You may introduce her to a concept like that, and that just, yeah. Some people not know things like that. That's why we're out here talking,
Yeah.
advocating for different stuff. Which, like, I don't know shit. I just know certain things. Like, it's good that I know this concept, which allows me to learn the language, but at the same time, I don't know many other things. So that's why, trying to get this knowledge out, and accepting the humility of those who speak do not know.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's not take this thing obviously for being I don't even know what word would fit here. A holy cow or something. It's some people use this in different ways, but the Holy Grail or whatever, right? You just let's not take this sentence absolutely as the perfect truth, but still, if you aren't speaking, if you aren't talking, at least you have a chance to listen and learn from something. But
Mm.
I'm glad that we share this thing with the world, and maybe some language learners are gonna find it
Yeah,
useful. I don't know.
I was very surprised when you brought that up. Because I seriously didn't think a lot of people thought about uh,
Oh no, I've had
learning
conversations
languages.
hopefully saving people from this translation based learning. So I don't know how they're doing right now, but I'm hoping that it's going well.
But I think we can agree that it, at the start, while it might be slow, perhaps not difficult, but slow, um, that with time you will have much an easier time to learn the language further.
Yes, there's loads of examples of stuff like that. Not necessarily with the language, but with mastering a concept rather than learning some knowledge which let's use the most basic example. If you learn the multiplication table, like if you by heart learn it,
Hmm.
I never learned it by heart, sort of. Well, I sort of know most of it, but like when it comes to 8 times 8 and 8 times 7 and 7 times 6, whatever, like, that region
Yeah,
between these three numbers, I just don't know. But
yeah.
I know how to
I
use
don't
it.
I don't know the fucking
Yeah.
alphabet.
Oh,
No, I can no much. Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
I'll
mean,
probably go wrong somewhere because it doesn't fucking matter to me. I
well,
mean,
alphabet.
I never go index things further and probably D. Go A B C D. Okay, nothing goes further than that if it's a list or whatever. That's not a good thing to say on a podcast, but
Oh yeah, I have gotten situations where I needed that, but yeah, alphabet is something that's very not hard to learn if you sing the little song, or
Yeah,
whatever, like A B C
yeah,
D F G H I J K L M N, all of that. But I'm saying that knowing how numbers work, like imagine teaching someone the multiplication table, they're never really gonna go beyond the 10 times 10 because that's it. That's where the multiplication table ends. No one really goes to school and tries to learn up to 20 times 20 because that's just a massive amount of numbers.
yeah.
You don't do that. But imagine
Uh,
teaching someone in this way.
you
Imagine,
develop techniques. Yeah,
yeah, but imagine teaching someone in this way and showing him, say, this is a figure called 6. This is a figure called 2. If you put them together, you get 12 or something, but never really teaching the person math, right? Never really teaching the person that 6 is actually just, 6 sticks on the table or 6 apples or whatever, like not going into that primal meaning etymology of the concept that you're trying to get across.
yeah. No, you won't because you can't. With that, when you're teaching a child. When
Yeah. For
the
teaching a
definition
child,
is not
teaching a
gonna mean
language or
anything.
something. Yeah, but
Uh,
imagine, just getting
uh,
this knowledge.
yeah, I mean, I wonder if you have if you learn the entire times table up to 10 times 10, could you, as a fresh brain, as a child who's learning math for the first time, and you taught them, the multiplication table up to 10 times 10, would they then be able to infer what 20 times 20 is from just knowing that? I wonder.
Well, if they've never seen a number called 20, uh,
Right. Yeah, so they'd actually have to have an idea of how counting is done in the language,
yeah.
but that counting comes before the multiplication. So,
It was a kind of weird example with the multiplication, but still, you know what I mean. It's
I
like
mean, it's an
teaching a person
interesting
a
thing.
concept. Yeah, teaching a person a concept, not how to use it, not teaching a person how to use it, but teaching a person the knowledge, the theoretical knowledge of it, right? So I was always a big proponent or whatever the word for this, like one who proposes and supports a given idea. So
Yeah, proponent.
a proponent of knowing the concept more in depth if you actually need to know the concept, not just taking notes in class and then trying to regurgitate this nonsense in an exam where
Yeah.
you're getting asked things. And yeah, this is a very different topic altogether about like how the education should be
Yeah.
structured. But yeah, I feel like understanding things is the way to go. Though sometimes I do feel lazy, It's like I don't really want to spend much time trying to understand such a concept because, for example, I know that I may not need it or something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Damn, it was quite an interesting episode, man.
It's just quite. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
We started with Plato. We started
A little
with
bit.
with
I wish
yeah.
I'd had more time to read maybe the whole book, but I had work. So,
Well, maybe next week.
well, let's hope we can do something else next week. And not get this into this philosophical. I don't know. I wouldn't call it a rut, but into this.
Well, how do you imagine it? That's the question that I can like. What do you think a good episode would be where we discuss like what?
Well, as in what should we discuss in the next episode, or what are you saying? Is that what you're saying?
No, not really. So, do you think that today's conversation was a good episode?
I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Okay.
I enjoyed the part
Because you
in
mean
which we.
you see, you talk about that philosophical rut as if philosophy was something that was
Yes. So see,
either black or
bad
white.
connotations.
I don't know
But,
what that means. Sorry. I have to look it up.
um,
An idea or feeling which a word invokes for a person in addition to its literal or primary meaning. Okay, so inferred meaning some weird. Okay.
Yeah. So you have, a word that could mean that without that by definition means something, but then it also has some feeling attached to it, which if you're not aware of, you might sound stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because like, oh, you can't use this in a positive light, even if you think it's this the right way. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So what were we? What were we saying?
Well, I think we can have a conversation about this off the podcast, and
Okay, yeah, of course.
kind of a good episode. I don't know. I am gonna title this "A Thing Is a Thing, Not What Is Said of a Thing,"
Yeah.
because even talking about language,
Well,
a word that means a feeling, for example, in one language, or a word that means a concept, which is there are some untranslatable concepts. So, for example, let's take language A and let's take language B. You're gonna try and learn language B, but a word in language B is gonna be a word in language B. It's really not going to be something that is said of that word in a language A, which is the translation, which is
that's the other thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, don't know.
Yeah, but when you say a thing as a thing, you have to be careful because you have a tautology on your hands. And saying a thing is a thing because it is a thing doesn't mean anything.
Well, we're not.
You could say, but I mean, we I think.
Well, you're not
explored this in the episode.
Quoting it as a full thing. A thing is a thing, not what is said of that thing. It is a. You don't just take this out of context.
No, okay. I said I didn't mean to take it out of context, but even in the context, it would be better to say the thing is the thing, because of the experiences that we have with the thing.
No. An experience
Indeed.
that we have with a thing is not a thing. A thing is a thing. You cannot.
As one of the things that we have with the thing, an experience being one of
well,
the things.
Well, then I can rephrase this quote if you want. A thing is a thing, not what is said of the thing, not what is experienced with the thing, not what. No, a thing is a thing. That's it. It's a matchbox. It's not
you have
a noise.
Tautology on your hands.
What is a tautology? The saying of the same thing twice over in different words.
I mean, it's not necessarily bad, but you can say that, and it's fair to say that. But I think it's fair to say that a thing is the thing that it is because of the way that of the connection that we have with it.
For us, the thing is a thing that we think it has a connection. Yes. But in the existence of that thing in the universe, it doesn't care about our existence. It just exists. And that's why that thing is that thing.
Yeah.
We don't just appear besides that thing and say, oh, let's give it a name or let's give it a feeling or something, and now it's going to change. No. It's matter which is. And it doesn't care about our existence as long as we don't care about its existence, because then you can argue for tautology, I guess.
Okay. Well, no, not then, but yes, you've convinced me. That's fine. We'll go with that.
A thing is a thing, Oscar.
It is indeed.
We give meanings to it. Attach meanings to it, but that's another thing. That's not the same thing. It's another thing. But well, mind stimulating, mind scratching discussion, I guess. Discourse. Conversation. Well, are you gonna pull out your book of what a discourse or a conversation means?
Yeah, I don't think it was a discourse, but I don't care right now.
Oh, thank you. I shall call it a conversation then.
Yeah, conversation is an umbrella term for all of them, so you can use conversation.
Works for me. Anyway, I think that's it for this week. It's been an hour of the thing. A thing is a thing. So
It is the thing.
no, it's just a thing. It's not. It's not the thing.
Fucking hell.
Oscar, a thing is a thing. That's it.
That's okay.
It's
I
like a
agreed with
thought.
you already.
It's a thought. A thought is a thought.
You can't explain it to me because it is a thing. It is what it is. Don't try to explain it to me. You just said it yourself.
The one
It is
that
what it
can
is.
be named is not the eternal Tao. That's the first verse from Tao Te Ching. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao.
Exactly.
The name that can be named is not the eternal name. So if you can explain what it is, pretty much.
Don't try to tell me the absolute truth which doesn't exist.
Well, I think that this is the absolute truth, actually. Because it claims that if you can name the truth, then it's not the truth. And by me naming that, it's almost a tautology again, but...
Well, that's reflexive.
By me naming that this is the absolute truth of knowing that there is no absolute truth, it already contradicts itself, but...
Yeah, contradicts itself is a better word.
If you can name it...
It isn't.
If you can name it, you can't name it. Or no, if you can name it, then it's not the thing, because the thing is the thing. That's it. That's how I'm going to end it this
I think I'm
way.
losing brain cells now.
No, it's a very good concept. Have you not thought about that?
What? Why would you infer that? By
Well,
God.
So you're losing brain cells by thinking about a concept, which is...
Be an absurdist.
Wow. Damn.
I think we can end it here because it's getting ridiculous.
This is absolute absurd, man. Well, I think absurdism philosophy is another weird thing, which...
It's another thing to talk about.
It is indeed.
It's not for a while. Not for a while.
That is absolute nonsense, and I shall claim that I do not exist.
By God, that is true.
Oh, are you naming a religion right now? Who is God?
No.
And what is God for you, then?
I can't tell you what my God is. He just is. God is God.
Oh,
I can
you
tell
said he. You did.
Define he.
Bukak!
What are we fucking still doing here?
Well, having a Zen conversation, which doesn't lead to anywhere and is absolute nonsense. I shall read up on this more and talk to you next week.
You're right. The thing is the thing.
A river flow.
I didn't get to pick apart Taoism, but that's okay.
An ocean. A tree. Cherry tree. That's it. That's how we're going to end this week's episode. Just saying cherry blossom. Beautiful. See y'all.
See you.